Katie graduated in 2020 with her PhD in musicology with her certificate in digital arts and humanities. She's currently part of the Research Data Services team, a division of University Information Technology Services at Indiana University. She serves as the administrator for IU's Esri educational license and manages the Indiana Spatial Data Portal. Her talk is titled Revitalizing the Indiana Spatial Data Portal. Take it away, Katie.
All right, great. Thank you, Teresa, and thank you all for being here for my talk today. As Teresa said, I work with Research Data Services. I've been in this role for about 1.5 years, and I manage both the ISDP as well as all of our Esri licensing for IU. So I get to spend a lot of my time doing GIS, which is fantastic. So today I'm going to talk to you about revitalizing the Indiana Spatial Data Portal, or as we call it, ISDP. And it's located at gis.iu.edu if any of you want to visit, and I hope you do. And so this is part of a project that took us about 14 months to go from planning to replace the previous instance of ISDP, which was aging, and how we went about making the decisions to first continue offering it, and then how we were going to go about it. No, don't click. So first, just a quick history of ISDP. So what is it? ISDP is a database of public domain geospatial data for Indiana. Mainly, this data has come from various state and local government imagery initiatives since 2005. We do also have some historical data as well. And ISDP has been around for a very long time. It first began as a use case for IU's tape archive, the Scholarly Data Archive, or SDA, in the late 1990s when it first came online. And our group, Research Data Services, has been managing it since 2017, but it's been part of the larger group directorate that our group belongs to since the late 90s. So Research Technologies has a long history with GIS data. So what kind of data do we have? We have quite a range of GIS data available in ISDP. It is predominantly imagery data. We have lots of orthophotography. We all have various kinds of elevation data, both digital elevation models and some digital surface models. It just varies by data set and year what we have. We do also have several LiDAR data sets. We have 2 complete runs for the state, one from 2011 to 2013, done in 3 bands across the state, and the most recent from 2016 and completed in 2020. For our sources, like I said, mainly from the state imagery initiatives led by the Indiana Geographic Information Office. But we also have quite a few regional data sets for counties, mostly orthophotography, but a few elevation and LiDAR sets as well. And for historical imagery, the main groups that we have are from USGS topographic maps. We have all of the Sanborn fire and insurance maps for the state of Indiana. All the ones that are currently in public domain are available through ISDP as PDF and TIFFs. And then we also just have some kind of varied regional data sets for historical orthophotography going back for some cities into the 30s. It just kind of depends on what was provided to us for the repository. Who uses ISDP? So our clients include, of course, IU faculty, staff, and students, as well as staff, faculty, and students from other educational institutions, predominantly in Indiana, but also in neighboring states. I added it up, and about 12% of our users are from education backgrounds or at education institutions right now based on domain names. So we do have a really heavy predominant use among folks in various public and private sector positions. We have a lot of commercial users, surveyors, utility companies like Duke, lots of architectural and design firms as well who utilize our data. And of course, state and local governments not only produce the imagery that we have, they also use it. We have plenty of users from INDOT, various county offices, park offices, from both Indiana and the surrounding areas where it overlaps with like Kentucky and Ohio, and a few in Illinois. So looking back at the history of ISDP and the statistics for fiscal year 22 for the old site. And this is a screenshot from the previous version of ISDP that went live in 2017-18. And so for the first 3 quarters of fiscal year 22, ISDP and its old site had 6,700 downloads. The history of the site since 2017, we had 6,000 unique registered users. And in terms of the data sets connected to it, we had about 70 terabytes of data in the Scholarly Data Archive that people could access. And so looking at the site, we knew that this was a very valued resource. It's heavily used, and so it was something we wanted to continue supporting. And so last year, in about June 2021, we started planning for a new, more sustainable and easier to both manage and update version of ISDP. Like this older map, the previous version needed to be replaced for a couple of reasons. It was starting to show the cracks in its structure. We had some serious security concerns about the age of the software stack, including some versions of operating systems that were just no longer supported and were a serious security vulnerability. So we had to replace that. The user interface had also been aging very quickly. One day forgot password simply broke and never worked again. So I was forgot password for 6 months. That was very exciting. And so planning ahead for a new sustainable version of ISDP, we knew we needed a reliable architecture, both for our sake as well as for our users, something that would be maintainable, that had a more robust data ingestion workflow. The previous one was fairly complicated and made it very difficult to add data to the site. So the site had gotten quite out of date. Improved user management. Instead of having its own custom user interface, you wanted to utilize IU login instead, which is a well-supported system that is already well tested. And we also wanted to restructure the data sets within ISDP to make them compatible with their best practices for the tape archive that we are using. And so I'm going to talk a little bit more about that tape archive next and how we made those decisions. So the Scholarly Data Archive, as I mentioned, is the tape archive that IU first put up in the late 90s. And it is a distributed storage service that is disaster resistant. So it's co-located. We have copies at both Bloomington and Indianapolis's data centers, which are basically in bunkers. And so 2 copies are the default. Every time you upload something, it's replicated in those 2 copies. And the total storage capacity is 79 petabytes, and it's just going to keep growing over time. And so this is both an extremely effective and durable storage system, much more so than some other options. It's also fairly affordable compared to the cost of storing this amount of data and spinning disk that we're working with. So the revitalization of ISDP was part of a larger project. Our group was designing a new service called the Scholarly Data Share, which is a new service that I also manage and designed to help share large research data sets. It utilizes asynchronous delivery instead of a simultaneous one, which is better both for drawing files from the SDA as well as for the size downloads that needed to be able to handle with the data sets that we work with. So our design principles for SDS were that it be affordable. Tape archive is considerably more affordable by an exponential factor than any other option considered. It's sustainable, something that we knew is well supported and was going to be around for a very long time, like the SDA, as well as the software that we chose for the front end of Mecca Classic, which is also well supported. Scalable, we wanted the service to fit a wide variety of projects, from something that's public facing with heavy use like ISDP to smaller data sets for internal use by like an individual lab to make a database of their own research data within IU. Customizable, it has we can set specific metadata for each instance. So for ISDP, we could use specific GIS metadata, include exactly the fields we wanted to, and can adapt that for other instances. And then be proportional development, something that was manageable within the scale of our team and the resources we have available. So the new infrastructure utilizes all IU resources. Some of you are probably familiar with Mecca Classic, which is a fantastic kind of front end that is used for museum, library collections. You can make exhibits, and it worked really well for our use case because we wanted to have metadata for individual items that we could group within collections and data sets. And so Mecca was a great choice for that. It's installed on IU's site host servers, which are the web servers that we use for various projects here at IU. The metadata and other database components are stored in the Research Database Complex, or RDC, which is a resource managed by our group, Research Data Services. Another team, Research Technologies Core Services, supports our virtual machine that runs the middleware for the site, which is an intelligent infrastructure, or IIVM. And then, of course, I've already mentioned the data itself is stored in the SDA, the Scholarly Data Archive. A big part of this was figuring out a streamlined data ingestion workflow so we could get data processed and into the site and available to users much more quickly and effectively. We have a scripted archive generation for many of the geospatial data sets. So we had, we have coordinates for each of the tiles within the ortho imagery sets. So we have one script that goes through, gathers all of the images for a USGS 24K quadrangle into one package, creates it, generates metadata for it, and it's ready for us to go and work with. For data that's grouped as quarter quads instead, like some of the NAIP data, it goes through, groups the quarter quads into one quad and goes with those. And we needed larger archives because the SDA and tape archives in general prefer to work with larger data sets. The previous version of ISDP quite literally had millions of tiny files. And so it was placing an unacceptable level of wear on the system because of the high level of use and the structure of the data. So the new data structure, assisted by these scripted archive generation tools, let us be better users of the SDA. A unified interface, I have to update things in one place and it's immediately available as soon as I approve it. The other site, you had to update things 4 places to actually have data be visible and usable in the site. And following that, ease of data updates. Our goal is to have new data once it's made available by the state or other organization to be in the site within 1 to 2 months, depending on the size of the data set. So I'm going to do a quick overview of the site itself. I should say all of the ortho imagery and our other visuals on my slides all come from ISDP or generated from data from it. This is the Indiana Dunes National Park, which is a really lovely place. So here's our homepage. And so, as I said, we wanted to utilize IU login. And so this is not limited just to IU users. Anyone can create an IU guest account by using the Create One Now option on this login page and be able to access the data sets within the site. The reason we needed a login was because the site uses authentication to generate the URLs that submit the download requests. And so there's not an authorization aspect. It's all open data. Anyone can access it. You just do have to have an account and log in so that the site can know who you are, add your email to the download request, and correctly process your download request within the site. This is our homepage, and just to do a quick overview of the site itself. This is our homepage. The About page goes through several different aspects of the site, and then does have a video with a site walkthrough showing how to use different aspects, including how to use the advanced search. Browse datasets lists each of the datasets within the site. I'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. Dataset information, these are just web pages that have information about each of the imagery initiatives from the information from the state, coordinate systems, resolution, things like that, as well as details about when each was flown, how the state imagery programs work, and things like that. Address lookup is an ArcGIS online instant app that lets you put in an address, city, or other landmark and get the name of the USGS 24K quadrangle that it belongs to. And that's for our users that may not know which quadrangle of data they're looking for within this site. And that way they know what to search for. The My Downloads tab lets you monitor your requests. You also receive an email from the system when a request is ready. Once it's been processed, download URLs are only available for 24 hours. And this is to facilitate making sure we have enough room in our online staging system in the VM for everyone to use it. contact us, of course, if you have any questions or run into any technical issues, please let us know. That'll send us a request that will come to me. And then dataset search is an advanced search where you can specify specific fields. So if you're just looking for raw data sets and say you're learning to use ArcGIS Pro and you need orthophotos, you can come here, specify your file type, go from there. If you're looking for LiDAR, Mr. SID, specific kinds of DEMs, you can find pretty much a lot of different types of data sets that you're going to want to use to work with, either as you're learning or versus any kind of research project you have where you need to look at Indiana GIS data. So looking at the data sets themselves, they're organized by year, imagery initiative, and file type. And so you'll see that in the file name. So the first one is the State Photography Initiative from 2016. These are the GeoTIFFs. And then they're broken down by file type after that. When you click on these, each of these has collection metadata that can be downloaded, typically including a shapefile with tile locations. This is an example of an individual item page for a data set. And so to download this data set, you click this first link, click here to download data set. When you click that, it already has your email address added from your session. And so it'll just initiates the request for you. That's all you have to do, is just click there and you'll initiate your request. So a quick look at how the first 7 months of the new ISDP has gone. So we did a soft launch of the site on April 14th of this year, and then took the site live and shut off the old one in May. So we've had 7 months since we first opened it to the public and 6 since it went fully live. Right now we have 27,500 files in the Omeka instance for ISDP. Which totals about 50 terabytes on the SDA. We still have a few data sets to finish migrating over from the old site, but the majority of the sets have been moved over. As of yesterday, we have 980 unique users who have requested files from the site. And we've gotten over 8,000 download requests in the first 7 months. The total data volume of that is 51 terabytes. So we have had a really good showing of traffic for the new site. And it's interesting to see the types of things that people do request. A lot of it is looking for the newest ortho imagery or LiDAR data sets, but I'm always pleased to see how much the historical imagery is used as well. We see people going back to the 2005 data, looking at the historical images of Bloomington that go back to the 30s. So we do see people using a wide variety of data sets, not just the most recent ones. I want to take a quick second to acknowledge all of the fantastic members of my team who have been part of the ISDP redesign. Our manager, Essen Tuna, who has been a fantastic support in the decision to go ahead with this and throughout the process. Guangchen Ruan is one of our amazing Python programmers who designed the middleware and does admin for the back end of the site in terms of middleware and the Python scripts that make the middleware and the Omeka site talk to each other. And then Alan Walsh is one of our database specialists and cloud specialists. And so he has helped significantly both on the database end, as well as in looking at different authentication and authorization methods for the site. This project has been supported by Eric Wernich, who's the director of Visual and Data Labs, which is the directorate that RDS belongs to. And of course, we could not do this without the support of our other partners within Research Technologies, Research Storage, the team that manages the SDA and keeps things going for us, and RT Course Services, who support all of the virtual machines that we use, both in our dev and in our production sites. So thank you very much for your attention. And if you have any questions, please let me know. And I hope to see lots of Big Ten Academic Alliance users' emails showing up in ISDP's downloads over the next few days. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Katie.